Okay guys, this is the last lesson that I will be giving you virtually. After we finish up the quiz and the test, we will move to Edgenuity. So we're winding up our Google Classroom. This will be the last video, and it is about applications. This is note 3.5E, Roman numeral number 5, solving real world applications. And I dressed up because we've talked about it before. The path of a rocket, that if you fire up, it goes up and then it comes down. What it actually does, I'll just show you. As it fires up, eventually this shoots out and it all falls to the ground with this parachute. So that path is just the same path as a basketball. If you don't put any backspin or anything on it, if you just shoot a basketball, it's an arc that you get is a parabola, and that's a quadratic equation. And that's what this chapter is about: solving, factoring, and then solving by factoring quadratic equations. Okay? All right, so I've got two we'll start with, and we'll end up on one with a rocket. All right. The first problem, let me scoot out of the way a little bit. All right, a piece of sheet metal is in the form of a parallelogram. The longer sides of the parallelogram are 8 meters longer than the distance between them. The area of the metal is 84 square meters. Find the length of the longer sides. So you know you have a choice. You can write let statements, let X be something and Y be something, or you can draw a picture. And I think most of us would rather draw a picture when we have a geometry, something with geometry. So a parallelogram looks like that. And it says that the longer sides, so these would be the longer sides. These are parallel. Of course, those are also parallel, but these are the longer sides. They're 8 meters longer than the distance between them. So the distance between them would be right here. So we'll call that X. So these are 8 meters longer than that. So X plus 8. It says that they want the area, actually the area of the metal is 84 square meters. So hopefully you remember the formula for the area of a parallelogram. If not, I'll remind you. The area of a parallelogram, I don't know why I put an equal sign for the A. A equals base times height. So we can use this formula to write our equation. The area is 84 square meters. The base would be the bottom. Well, the bottom and the top are the same. It's a parallelogram. But not only are the opposite sides parallel, they're also equal. So the base would be X plus 8. And the height is the distance from the bottom straight up to the top. Well, we can see that's X. And now you just need to solve your quadratic equation. All right, the problem is it's not in the right form. Remember, the right form looks like this. So we've got to transfer this to make it look like a quadratic, to put it in quadratic form. All right, so we're going to distribute the X. So 84 equals X squared plus 8X. Still not quite right, but what we can do is just move the 84 over here, subtract it from both sides. As long as it equals 0, it's all good. So that equals 0. So that is actually the same as this. It's just flipped, and that's fine. It just needs to equal 0. All right, here we go. So now we can solve it. What first term times what first term equals the first term? X times X. What last term times last term equals negative 84, but it's got to add up to 8. Your inners and outers are 8. So let's think about 84. So we could have 1 times negative 84 or negative 1 times 84. 2 goes into that. You could have 2 times negative 42 or negative 2 times 42. 3, actually, yeah, 3 goes in there. 3 times 20, what would that be? 28? Yep, 28, just making sure. Negative 3 times 28. You know, one of them has to be negative because it's a negative 84. 4 goes in. 4 times negative 21, or negative 4 times 21. 5, no, 6, yes. 6 times 14, negative 14, or negative 6 times 14. You just got to find the right combination. What you're wanting to happen is you want to end up with 8 here. So 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's it. That's the, no other number would go in evenly. All right, so which one would actually you think would work? Well, those are way too far apart. That'd be 25. One's positive, one's negative. We're looking down here. Now we want the inners to be positive 8x. So therefore, we're going to need to use that last one. So that would be plus 14 minus 6. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to set each of these equal to 0. That's how you solve your equations. So minus 14, minus 14. Can a distance be negative? No, this is an extraneous solution. It is a solution to the equation, but because this is a real-world application, it is impossible for a distance to be negative. So that cannot be the answer. So this will have to be the answer because it's going to be a positive number. All right, so what we're saying is this, it would be 6, and then 6 plus 8 would be 14. The actual question is, find the length of the longer side. Well, the longer side was 14. So the length, which is the length of the parallelogram, oops, forgot my L, is 14 what? It was 8 meters longer. This was square meters, so that means it's meters. So that's the answer. Answer. Problem is presented in words. The answer is presented in words. Okay? All right, so that's just a good example. We have 3 more. Carl is planning to build a rectangular deck along the back of his house. He wants the area to be 60 meters, square meters. The length is 1 meter less than half of the length. All right, again, we can draw a rectangle. He wants the width to be, okay. So I think what we're going to have to do is the width is explained in terms of the length. So let's let the length be L. Oh, that's the wrong side. That's the little side. That would be the width, wouldn't it? So we have to erase that. We'll call the length up here, because that's the longer side. Length is the longer side, width is the shorter side. So we could put W, but we're not writing this in 2 variables. We're writing this in 1 variable. So let's do that where we do automatic, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Translation. A translation from English words to math symbols. Okay, here we go. So the length, the width, that would be this side, is 1 meter less than what? Than half of the length. So half of the length would be half L, but it's not that. It's 1 meter less. So minus 1. All right, so there it is. 1 meter less than half of the length. All right, now, how do you find the area of a rectangle? Hopefully you remember. Length times width. So let's fill it in. The area that's needed or wanted is 60. The length is L. The width is 1/2 length minus 1. All right, we'll distribute again just like we did last time. L times 1/2 L would be 1/2 L squared. L times -1 would be -L. Now, from the very beginning of the year, I have said, we really don't like fractions, it seems, at Leesburg High School. So what we decided to do was, when we get ready to solve an equation, get rid of the fractions right from the beginning. Just get rid of them. And how did we do that? We multiply both sides by the common denominator. Well, underneath this would just be 1, you know, so the denominator is actually 2. So I'm going to multiply this side by 2, this side by 2. So that's 120. Distribute. The 2's would cancel. 1/2 doubled. 1/2, 1/2. That's 1 whole. So that's just L squared minus 2L. So I'm just distributing to both. All right, it's got to look like that. So I got to subtract 120. I need it to equal 0. So L squared minus 2L minus 120. All right, so that's what we are trying to figure out. We know first times first, it's got to be L times L, right? L times L is L squared. Now we've got to multiply to be a -120. Woo, that's a pretty big number. Let's think about it. We got 1 times -120, 2 times -60, or -2 times 60, 3 times -40, or -3 times 40. Is there any way to put those together to get a 2? No, so we have to keep going. 4 times -30, or -4 times 30. 5 times 24, negative, or -5 times 24. Still, we got to get them closer together. We need those inners and outers to add up to -2. So -6 times 20, or 6 times -20. 7 doesn't go in there. How about 8? Yep, 8 goes in. 8 times what would that be? 15? Yeah, 15, or -8 times 15. 9 does not go in evenly. How about 10? Yeah, 10 does. 10 times -12, or -10 times +12. And 11 doesn't go. 12 is here, so we know those are all the possibilities. That was a long one, wasn't it? Well, which one would add up your inners and outers to be -2? Well, you're going to have to do this one, because you need the bigger one to match that sign. So -12, +10. Your inners are -12L, your outers are 10L. So you can see, yep, that would be a -2L, which is what you want. All right, now solve the equation by using your zero product property. What you want is you need to set each factor to 0. So add 12. So L equals 12. So we know the length. Length is 12. And then what happens over here, I don't really need to rewrite that. L equals -10. That's another one of those extraneous solutions. A length cannot be negative. So we know it has to be this one. So the length is 12. Now, what's 1/2 of 12 minus 1? Half of 12 is 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. So we actually know, it says find the dimensions. We know the dimensions. The dimensions must be 12 meters by 5 meters. So you can see that construction workers, they will be using quadratic equations sometimes in order to find the proper length and width for an area of a building. So, okay, I'm going to just stop the video for a second, and I'm going to erase all this and put up 2 more problems, and then we'll finish up the video. All right, we have 2 more examples. Long one and a short one. Okay, here we go. Find the three side lengths of a right triangle that are 3 consecutive integers. So you can see we're using things that we learned way back toward the beginning of the year and into the fall. So here we go. Right triangle. And it says that the three side lengths are 3 consecutive integers. So if we let the first one be x, what would the next one be? Consecutive integers are like 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Or one right after the other. So to make this one more, I just add 1. And then to make it one more, I add another 1. So 1 plus 1 would be 2. So that's how you can make your, you can label your triangle and not actually have to draw, do let statements. So here we go. I mean, you could say let x be the smallest side, let x plus 1 be the medium side, let x plus 2 be the largest side. Now, always make the hypotenuse the largest side because that is goes back to a formula that you'll need to know. Hopefully you remember this from geometry. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's the good old Pythagorean theorem. And these are the legs, and that's the hypotenuse. So I can take these variables and throw it here, right in there, substitute it right into that formula. So x squared plus the other leg, x plus 1 squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So we need to make it look like that. So we got a long ways to go here, guys. What does it mean to square something, square a binomial? Multiply it by itself. Of course, x times x is just x squared. This is when you're doing FOIL forwards. Not backwards FOIL, but forwards FOIL. So first times first, outers, inners, last times last. So first times first would be x squared. Your outers would be 1x. Your inners would be 1x. So that's 2x. And last times last is 1. Over here, first times first, x squared. Your outers would be 2x. Your inners would be 2x. So that's 4x. And last times last is 4. Doesn't look like that, does it? So what we're going to have to do is move, since this is a little smaller, let's move it all this way. So minus x squared, minus x squared, minus 4x, minus 4x, minus 4, minus 4. Okay? So ding, 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 that's gone. Okay? Now let's combine all this. All right, x squared minus x squared, that's gone. So we have x squared, 2x minus 4x, and 1 minus 4. So now we finally have it in the proper form, so now we got a factor. Here we go. What first term times what first term is the first term? X times x is x squared. What last term times what last term is negative 3. Well, that's pretty easy, guys. You only have one choice. A 1 and, well, two choices. A negative 1 and a positive 3, or a positive 1 and a negative 3. Well, since I want a negative in the middle, I'm going to make the larger one negative. So negative 3, positive 1. And look, it works. Negative 3x, positive 1x, negative 2x. It works. So then set each one to 0. All right? Now solve for x. So add 3 to both sides. X equals 3. Whoopsie. Add 3. Or subtract 1, subtract 1. X equals negative 1. All right, now go back to your design. Your little triangle here. Could that be negative 1? No, side lengths of the triangle can't be negative. That's extraneous. It doesn't work. How about this one? Yes. So if this x is 3, what is this x? 3 plus 1, 4. X is 3 plus 2 is 5. So the side lengths of the right triangle are 3, 4, and 5. And they didn't tell if it was feet or inches or centimeters or what, so we just have to say units. Because we don't actually know. But we know it's 3, 4, and 5. That's the only one that works for the consecutive numbers. Can't forget to put my period on there. All right, last one. So we have opened up with a rocket, and here we go. We got a rocket. It's going to shoot off the ground. Now mine had a parachute, but if it doesn't have a parachute, it says an Alpha 3 model rocket is launched from the ground with an A8-3 engine without a parachute. Now mine has a parachute, so this one wouldn't follow that. The height of the rocket at time t, so the time is t, the height of the rocket is h, is modeled by, look here, it's a quadratic formula because it's got a 2. The highest exponent is 2, it's quadratic. It says find how long it takes the rocket to return to the ground. Okay, so what am I looking for? How long? That's the time. I'm looking for the time. So when I do my equation, what is the height? Okay, if the rocket, watch this, if the rocket is on the ground, what's the height of the rocket? How high is it? It's 0. It's on the ground. It's 0. So that's how you're going to solve it. You're going to let the height be 0. So sometimes you are given a quadratic equation to use, and other times you have to actually create it. In this case, we didn't have to create it, we just use it. All right, so now we've got to solve it. It's already in the proper form. So this is not a trinomial. I can't do backwards FOIL. So how can you solve if you've got just a binomial? Could be difference of squares or could be GCF. In this case, GCF. Remember, when you are factoring, this is something I've had to write and tell a bunch of you when you did your homework, you did it wrong. If the front term is negative, you need to take the negative out. So I take the negative out, and I also have, this has 2 t's, that has 1 t, so there is 1 t in common. All right, so I'm factoring it out. That's the greatest common factor. All right, this divided by this would be t. This divided by this would be -9. So then we can solve it. The greatest common factor equals 0, using your 0 product property, or the binomial can equal 0. So for this one, I would divide both sides by 16, -16. So t is 0. 0 divided by -16 is 0. Add 9. T equals 9. Could time be 0 seconds? Actually, it could. When the rocket started on the ground, it started like this. It's 0 high at 0 seconds. And then you light, there's a little thing, you light it, and shoo, it comes up, and it gets to the highest point, and then it falls to the ground. So when it falls to the ground, it must have been 9 seconds. So it would take, because that's when it began, this is when it ends. It would take 9 seconds to land on the ground. Alrighty. So that question is why I was dressed in my NASA suit, my space camp suit. We had a lot of fun. Actually, I made that at space camp, and we shot it off later. My husband and I went to space camp, and we both had one. And they had trying to break the world record for the most little rockets like this being blasted off the same day, and we actually participated in that event. So, but we were able to get our rockets back. We had to go find them. They went off into another neighborhood, but we found them. We found them both. So, all right, guys, I've enjoyed teaching you online, and I think this will be the last video unless you feel that you need some extra help with some Edgenuity material. So we'll review for the quiz, and then we'll have the quiz and the test, and we'll move to Edgenuity. All right, bye-bye, guys.